Government. Thank you. I call the Honourable Dr. Nick Smith.
Mr. Chairman, I look forward to participating in the committee stages on this important bill because there are thousands of New Zealanders that are concerned about the compounding increase in rates and costs of local government, who are genuinely concerned about the level of debt, who want to see a government that's got the courage to make some of the changes in this important sector to ensure it supports this government's plans for economic growth. I want to make a number of key points. The first, does this bill have strong support amongst New Zealanders? Well, members opposite say no. Well, let me just give a couple of examples. In my annual newsletter to every one of my constituents, I include a questionnaire. Covers issues on gay marriage, on euthanasia, includes questions on things like mineral developments. And I have to say to members opposite, gay marriage, pretty close actually. My community is pretty evenly divided. On respect of actually over 2,000 responses, Mr. Goff. And you know that 87% of my constituents supported the need for this reform. And then let's look at an organisation like the New Zealand Council for Infrastructure Development, an organisation that was championed by members opposite. Did we see the release from the Council for Infrastructure Development last week? Their survey showed that 80% of New Zealanders wanted to see a government pass legislation that would result in a lower. The question members ask is, well, what level of... Let me give you an example. I have done a survey of my electorate every year that I have been a Member of Parliament. And do you know this year's response of over 2,200 was the highest response ever? And I challenge...
What about the other 48,000?
Well, if you've got 48,000 households in your electorate, Mr. Goff, you're obviously the guy that's been doing the numbers on Labour's housing policy because you're out by more than half. And then let's come to the numbers. Because I've heard speech after speech from members opposite that says the numbers don't support the government's reform of local government. Well, let's go through them. The Department of Statistics says that over the last 10 years, the consumer price index for rates has gone up faster than any other component of the consumer price index. Faster than the increase in food, faster than fuel, faster than electricity, faster than clothing, faster than insurance, faster than any other, at 7% per year. Do members opposite dispute those figures? Oh, and it says, well, there's actually two sources of those figures, because both the consumer price index shows that 7% per annum compound increase. At the same time, we know from the Department of Statistics actual addition and reporting specifically on local authorities matches up with that 7% compound figure. And the thing that's really interesting, Mr. Chairman, is this. In the 10 years prior to 2002, when Labor rewrote these government laws and provided these general powers, the average increase was just 3% per annum. And you know, Mr. Chairman, if rates over the last decade had followed what they had for the previous decade, New Zealanders today would be paying $1 billion a year less in rates, or $500 less for every single household. And members opposite says, oh, I don't care about that stuff. Well, actually, they're completely out of touch with the real issues that are facing New Zealand households. It is pure fluff for them to be shedding crocodile tears about New Zealanders not being able to afford housing, and then in the next breath not care about the very large increase in costs on things like rates and other expenses that is making that dream of wanting to own a Kiwi home so much more difficult? Mr Chairman.
The Honourable Nick Smith.
Mr Chairman. And then let's look at the issues of debt. Because when Labor passed their massive reforms of local government on debt in 2002, go back and read the Hansard. They said there will not be any increase substantially above historical trends, either in rates or debt, as a consequence of their changes. That's what they said. That was the assurance that the Anik Kings and the Phil Goffs gave the people of New Zealand in 2002. Well, what's happened? The level of local council debt throughout New Zealand in 2002 was $2 billion. Today, Mr Chairman, it's $8 billion. That is a four-fold increase. But the more concerning fact is this. If we look at the 10-year plans that have just been published by our councils throughout New Zealand, they show that level of debt that's gone from $2 billion to $8 billion, going from $8 billion to $19 billion. To $19 billion. And what do members opposite say about the level of council debt in this country going from $8 billion to $19 billion, and they say it does not matter? I say, open your eyes. Look at the world and the damage that's being done by toxic debt. Don't you take on board the real necessity, whether it be farmers, households, government and councils, to get their debt under control. And that's why I say to members opposite that this... Well, the Deputy Leader of the Opposition's nodding his head. Is he comfortable with the 10-year plan that have debt in our councils going from $8 billion to $19 billion over the next 10 years?
Looks like he is.
Well, he says he's all okay about it. Well, that's good. Because when we go to the next election, New Zealanders will know that the Labor Party is more than happy to have rates continuing to go up by 7% per year, just as they were when they were in government. They'll know that if they vote for Labor, they can count on even more local government debt and it continuing to go up. Mr Speaker, it is true that this bill changes the purpose of local government. We're very upfront about what we stand for. We stand for limited government. We don't think government should be involved in every possible endeavour across every field. But let me test members opposite. Because what the local government spokesperson for the Labor Party has said this. She agrees that there should be a limit on what local government can do. Well, that's very interesting. Because do you know what Crown Law advised the Select Committee about the level of limits that's provided by councils that can provide for the social, economic, cultural and environmental well-being? The advice is it provides absolutely no limit at all. If the council wants to buy a steel mill, a corner dairy, if it wants to buy a farm, if it wants to do any business it likes, the Labor Party says that's okay. Well, we don't. We're saying that councils need to be focused on providing good quality local infrastructure. They need to be focused on providing those important local services that only councils can do. That our councils need to be focused on providing really good quality regulatory services so people can get sections subdivided, that there can be new homes at affordable levels rather than trying to do all things on the planet for mankind. You see, this bill is about a very necessary change in local government. It's about the sort of change we need to get costs under control in that local government sector so that we can get the growth in the private sector where there are real jobs and real creation of wealth for this country. This is a government that's committed to sensible reform that will see New Zealand doing better, and council reform has to be part of that, and that's what this bill's all about.
I call the Honourable Member Eugenie Sage.
Yeah. Well, that was very